the Strategic Planning Committee here in County Hall on Tuesday, the 4th of February. Have we had any apologies for absence?
Yes, Chair, I've received apologies from Councillors Lang and Watson.
Thank you. Disclosures of members' interests. Sorry. Councillor Reid. Have any members got... Oh, sorry. Martin.
Well, just to say, I'm a county councillor, obviously it's in my ward. I'm also town councillor in Annex.
This is a declaration of interest.
It's a non-pecuniary, just to inform people. I am a town councillor, but I have no part in any of the town council deliberations on planning.
Very good, thank you.
Thank you.
Any other disclosures of members' interests? No? So we go... just like to go through the procedure that we adopt when we hold our planning committee meetings. As chair, normally I introduce the application, ask if the members have seen any site visit videos. We then ask our planning officer for any updates, any changes to the recommendations, and we ask him to present his report. We then have a slot for public speaking, 5 minutes for objectors, 5 minutes for a local member, a parish councillor, county councillor, and then 5 minutes for an applicant or a supporter. The members of the committee then have the opportunity to put questions to our planning officer. We then debate the planning application, ask for a proposal, ask for that to be seconded, and then we carry out the debate and have a vote on the application. So, ladies and gentlemen of the committee, we only have one item on the agenda today, and that is on page 15. It's an application for a new garden centre with a retail concession wing, including a car park, suds pond, service yards, and vehicle access. And that's land to the southwest of the Hogshead Inn, Hawfinch Drive, Coleridge Business Park in Alnwick. Our case officer today is John Sharp, and he is going to take us through this application. John, over to you.
Thank you, Chair. Good afternoon, everybody. I will apologise up front for my voice. I've been full of cold the last few days, so if you can't hear me, then do shout up and let me know. A couple of verbal updates to begin with. The introduction at paragraph 1.1 refers to the need for a Section 106 agreement for highways improvements. As noted elsewhere in the report, this should refer to a financial contribution towards the highway improvements. Excuse me, paragraph 7.39 on residential amenity is clearly a paragraph I was intending to come back to finish off. It tails off somewhat. But it's clear from the following paragraph 7.40 that consideration has been given to the impacts of the proposals on those living close by to the site. So we're happy, we're confident that those issues have been addressed. 7.85 refers to consultation with public health and notes that the conditions are recommended to secure a commitment to active travel.
Councillor Hutchinson, we'll restart the application so that you can hear the whole story. Is that okay? We've just started. So, Councillor Hutchinson, it's the only item on the agenda today. It's the new garden centre at Alnwick, land southwest of Hogshead Inn. John, if you'd start again, please.
Thank you. Just for Councillor Hutchinson's benefit, then, I must apologise. I've got a very sore throat. So a few verbal updates to begin with. The introduction at para 1.1 refers to the need for a Section 106 agreement for highway improvements. As noted elsewhere in the report, it should refer to a financial contribution towards highway improvements. Para 7.39 on amenity is clearly one I was intending to come back to finish off. It tails off somewhat, but it's clear from the following paragraph 7.40 that consideration has been given to the impacts of the proposals on those living close to it, and we're confident that those issues have been addressed. Para 7.85 refers to consultation with public health. It notes that conditions are recommended to secure a commitment to active travel, training and apprenticeships and EV charging facilities. Possibly should have said requested rather than recommended there, but just to make the point that EV charging and active travel issues are picked up in highways conditions anyway. No condition has been included in respect of training and apprenticeships. We weren't sure it would meet the tests of reasonableness, but clearly if it's something members feel strongly about, then we could look to do something there. Finally, in respect of the BNG monitoring fee, which is to be secured by the 106 agreement, the monitoring fee is mentioned a couple of times throughout the report, but the amount isn't actually recorded. The county ecologist has requested a figure of £4,729.06, and we can put that into the recommendation for clarity. So I'll take you through the slides. So the location plan there, as you can see, showing the red line boundary, and the blue line is just showing the wider ownership. An aerial view showing what it is at the moment, an agricultural field with the tail back up to the highway on the Shilbottle Road there. You've got the Hogshead Inn, McDonald's, and the college, the offices at College Business Park just to the north. Across the other side of the A1 there is the Quotient Sciences a building. And just to the south, you've got Greensfield Moor Farm. This is just showing some of the constraints around the area. The purple patches are the allocated employment sites. It doesn't show up particularly well, but there is a dashed line around the application site which identifies that as expansion land, so allocated allocated employment land too. The black line around the site is the settlement boundary. Red line across the northern boundary and heading off in the direction of Shilbottle is a public right of way. And just to the south at Greensfield Moor, there you've got a polygon on the farmhouse, which is Grade 2 listed. So this is the proposed site layout. Obviously showing the access in from Hawfinch Drive there, coming into the car park with the main garden centre building directly in front of you, and the concession wing to the left. External sales area just in the corner between the two, and just at the bottom of the picture there is where the Suds Pond is intended to go on the other side of the access track to Greensfield Moor. This slide just shows you the intended highway improvements along Hawfinch Drive. So the footpath all the way along would be increased to 3 metres wide to accommodate cycling and pedestrians, and would lead to a new zebra crossing on Shilbottle Road, which is being brought forward as part of the wider improvements in that area. That's actually been upgraded to what's known as a parallel crossing, which is a zebra crossing with a cycle crossing alongside it. Some proposed elevations of the building. As you can see, a series of ridged gables, heavily glazed for the entrance there. Ridge height of 8.6 metres. This one is showing the back at the bottom there it would be the back of the garden centre. The one in the middle there is the elevation showing the garden side on for the garden centre, and then the front elevation of the retail wing. The inset there just showing details and materials. So aluminium and glazing, curtain walls with vertical timber cladding above. Some perspectives of what it's intended to look like. And then site photographs, the site as it is. So this is looking south. Both of these are looking south from the end of Horfinch Road. This is from the northeast corner, looking along looking into the site on the left, and then looking along the track to Greensfield Moor. And then that one there is pretty much from the same place, but just showing down the outside of that hedge where the Suds Pond is intended to go. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much indeed, John. Thank you very much.
I will. Sorry, I'm going to say thank you. I'll take you through the rest of it now. But yeah, as set out in the report, and as members we can see from the slides, this is intended to be a large garden centre with retail concessions on the edge of Alnwick, adjacent to the A1, and within a designated employment site adjacent to the existing Coleridge Business Park. The proposed operator is Blue Diamond, a large garden centre operator with approximately 45 outlets in the south and the Midlands. They're expanding north and are also building a site at Scotch Corner, but this would be the first in the northeast. There's no confirmation of the proposed retail concessions at this stage. However, the type of outlets typically found at their sites include nationally significant brands such as Regatta, Lakeland, Pavers, Maidenhead Aquatics, and so on. The key issue really is whether we are accepting of a large-scale non-employment use on a designated employment site, which would appear to be required for employment uses over the remainder of the planned period. It's argued by the applicant that the benefits of the proposals would bring to the town would outweigh the loss of the designated employment land. And whilst not determinative, it's noted that the neighbourhood plan is currently under review, and additional employment sites could be brought forward through that process. As noted in the report before you, this is an on-balance decision, but one we think is acceptable, hence the recommendation of approval subject to conditions under Section 106 agreement. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much indeed. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen of the committee, we now come to the section where we have public speaking. We haven't anybody objecting or a local councillor wishing to speak. We just got someone speaking in support. So I'd like to invite Sam Neal to speak for no more than 5 minutes. Is that all right?
Yep, thank you.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. There is little doubt that our scheme for a garden centre and retail concessions wing located in Alnwick will bring a wide range of benefits to the town and has wide public support, along with being welcomed by the town council. Engagement with locals through a consultation was overwhelmingly positive. 74% of people agreed there is a need for such development in Alnwick, with 73% agreeing Alnwick needs a wider range of retail provision. At present, Alnwick does not have a proper garden centre, and the imminent closure of Home Base this month will leave a big gap in that service. Early concern surrounding the impact the scheme could have on the town centre has been thoroughly addressed by the council's independent consultants. Given the site's out-of-centre location, we have assessed the proposals against the sequential and impact tests in line with the NPPF. The sequential test considers whether there are any opportunities which are suitable and available within the town centre to accommodate the development. No sites which were both sequentially preferable and suitable exist, and the officer agrees with this conclusion. The impact assessment looked at the impact of the proposal on existing centres within the area. Officers and the independent report agree that much of the trade diversion will come from existing out-of-centre outlets and other garden centres. The forecast trade diversion impact upon Alnwick Town Centre is very low, at around 5%. At this level, the development would not result in any significant adverse impacts upon the town centre. There is an unmet need for the development, and as such the proposals would enhance the range and choice of shops selling garden and other related goods, bringing new names to the town. It must be acknowledged that the character and appearance of the area surrounding the proposed development site is mixed and home to a wide range of uses within the neighbouring industrial, trade and business park. A landscape buffer will provide a substantial green boundary of circa 15 metres in width around the site. This will help provide a transition between the garden centre's mass and surrounding built and natural context. Once matured, the buffer will effectively screen views into and out of the site and from Greensfield Moor Farm. All statutory authorities have provided comments that have been addressed during the course of the application, and working with officers, there are no outstanding objections subject to appropriate planning conditions. There are a significant number of new public benefits which carry great weight in the planning balance. These include the creation of a substantial number of direct, full-time equivalent jobs, estimated at around 120 plus, along with around 60 indirect jobs. The development will attract new visitors to the town, with the potential to generate additional spin-off visits to the town centre. The design includes sustainability features embedded into the design, including solar panels, rainwater harvesting, EV charging, and also an upgraded pedestrian and cycle link from the site into Alnwick. While the development is on allocated employment land, over 120 jobs will be created. This is more than many other uses, such as storage and distribution. It is highly unlikely that any alternative employment use would create more jobs than this. The draft neighbourhood plan is also providing additional employment land to ensure a continuity of future supply. Overall, the development will provide a major investment of around £12 million in the area, bringing a top-end operator, Blue Diamond, to Northumberland. This will be the best garden centre in the whole of the North East region. It will bring many economic benefits to the town and help to grow and diversify our jobs offer, and to provide improved services and facilities for local residents and attract visitors. And we would ask that you give your full support. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. Ladies and gentlemen of the Planning Committee, this is now your opportunity to put questions to our planning officers. Anybody want to ask a question? Councillor Richard Dodd.
Yes, Chair. Those that's been around a while can remember that there was a big application on an industrial unit in Alnwick for 125 houses. And it was argued there that there wasn't the demand. I cannot remember if that was ever dealt with and they went through or they didn't go through, but can anyone shed light on that one?
Well, yes. We wanted, the application was for houses on Willoughburn, I think, Willoughburn Industrial Estate, and the arguments that councillors were putting forward was that really we wanted that to remain for industrial use, and we saw various problems of having part industrial, part housing. So that was turned down, and it was round about the time that the Denwick and Alnwick local plan came in, and we used the Alnwick and Denwick local plan to refuse that housing application. Councillor, sorry.
Chair, if I may, if I can just try and put this in a different way. The point that the Chair's just made is that if you mix residential uses and commercial or employment uses on a site, then the presence of residential uses tends to cause, or has risk of causing, sterilisation on adjacent employment land, such that it isn't just about the site that's taken up, it's the fact that it could restrict the use of other employment sites around it. And the fact is that we have a very clear housing land supply, such that there's no need to consume other allocated land uses for it.
Thank you. Councillor Gordon-Stewart.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Employment. You've hinted there may be some issue along those lines, but 120 people being employed in a town such as that are quite a substantial number. Can you break down that employment, or is it really a guesstimate at the moment? And does that satisfy the requirements?
I mean, the figures of around 120 FTE, full-time equivalent jobs, is what's been presented to us in the by the applicant. I think the point was made that even if a genuine employment use came along for that site, it's probably the sort of numbers you'd be looking at anyway. So yes, there's going to be a significant number of people being employed on this site. It's just it's the wording of the employment policies within the local plan that and the definition of employment uses in the local plan that exclude retail, because it's the sort of land use that attracts a lot of a lot of people into it, that wouldn't otherwise be coming to a site, and potential conflicts with things like HGV movements and such like that you would expect to see on an employment site. So it is a tricky one. It is potentially bringing in significant numbers, but it doesn't fully square with the policies in the local plan.
Yeah, if I could just add, I think what your question is probably getting at is that there is no minimum employment density target addressing this site. Okay. In some circumstances, say where you had, I'm thinking like city centre sites, you may only want high density job numbers on sites, and in your local plan you would set that out. This site isn't covered by any requirement to achieve a certain density, because, for example, as the public speaker mentioned, you could potentially see storage and distribution users come forward, which have very low job numbers, but actually tick the box of being formal employment users. Whereas this is an employment generating use. That's a nuance of difference, both in legislation and in the plan.
Yeah.
Can I just add on this? I think is when we talk about employment land, in your mind, we're all probably thinking about different things. And you have heavy uses, like industrial uses. You have mixed uses. You have light uses. But remember that the land next to this, that was designated employment before, already includes things like a petrol filling station, a hotel, a McDonald's, as well as some light uses like offices as well. So there isn't one overall character there, what you call of being like primary employment land uses there, as you may find on an industrial estate.
And just from the chair on the back of Councillor Stewart's question, it's in the report, it sort of slightly puts a question mark on, are we using up valuable employment land? And, what I want to ask Rob Murphin is that in the future, do we see any other employment sites coming forward that might avail themselves to this use?
Yeah, that's a good question. Actually, you tend to allocate employment land on the basis of what evidence you've got in front of you. So lots of the employment land designations in the county are historic ones. So what we are doing at the moment, in preparation for considering the need and nature of a potential review of the local plan, is to look at the actual needs of the modern economy, because those have changed, and the type of employers we are seeing wanting to move into the county may have land requirements which are not properly supported by our current portfolio of employment land allocations. So we will look to review that and extend it. I think the most clear example will be, for example, in the southeast of the county, where we are quickly running out of large-scale sites which are suitable for large-scale inward investors. But there'll be an exercise carried out in the rest of the county saying actually what are the actual employment markets for land changing, because modern requirements to what are trends of the economy are different than they were when the plan was first done. So that's a very long way of answering to say that actually we will be looking at the need for employment land throughout the county as part of a potential local plan review. But as the case officer mentioned, the neighbourhood plan is also being reviewed and they're able to look at this issue as well.
Excellent. Thank you. Councillor Alec Wallace.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. Little observation before a question. I do have a question.
We'll allow that.
For example, anybody, I think anyone who lives in the Alnwick area will turn around and say, how can the possibility of 120 people working somewhere not be classed as employment? Because it is employment. If I want to buy a cotton trader shirt, I may go to the garden centre at Morpeth to buy it. I might not go into Alnwick because there isn't a cotton trader's shop in Alnwick. Retail is changing, retail is closing, but retail, Chairman, has to be employment. So I think working with a new draft local plan that we'll be working towards, we'll be examining this even more. But it lends to the question.
Okay.
Here's the question. A number of years ago, quite a few years ago, in the Wansbeck area, we had an industrial estate. And a group who wanted to build a church, on that industrial estate. And the recommendation to the committee was to refuse. And we refused. And they won it on appeal. And they won it on appeal on the question I'm about to ask the officer. How many times have we advertised that land as employment land? And have we advertised it as employment land? Or has it just been, have we just waited for somebody to come along and say, I would like to build something there?
Via the chair, if that's possible. Touching your first statement, the local plan and the National Planning Policy Framework, and indeed all of planning case law, does differentiate between employment uses and employment generating activities. So on other parts of this extended business park, there are things which you would call sort of like there's like farm machinery sales, tyre fitting bays, things like that. Those are employment generating, but they're not employment uses per se. Something like a church is not an employment, and the same way that Councillor Dodd raised went, housing isn't employment generating use, even though you could argue it would create jobs by manufacture. Okay, right. So I think there's a clear differentiation there, and this is what we've explored in the report. The other question is, this isn't land in the control of the County Council, and the site has been marketed by the person with an interest in it, and given the current economy, this is the first, I think, substantive inquiry they've had for a period of about 10 years on this site. So the question is, that's really a signal that perhaps this parcel of land doesn't fit modern employment land requirements at the moment. Okay, and that's why the report then goes through this, and just to segue into this, that's why the report very clearly addresses the issue of sequential testing, which is about, should be a town centre site first, unless it's a use that isn't suitable there, and then looks at the impact on the town centre, and it also looks then at, is this an acceptable employment use? So it tries to answer all those questions, and the balance is that the recommendation is for approval. But the report does tell that story. This report doesn't quite do justice to the amount of work that's taken place behind the scenes to align all the evidence and the challenge and the analysis that's taken place. This is the culmination of a lot of work, this analysis. It isn't a decision lightly made to come to committee and say recommend for approval on this one. Because our first reactions to this was to ask all the questions that you've been asking already. Okay.
Thank you. Any more questions? Councillor Georgina Hill.
Thank you. I think it's actually a really good report, and reading it, all the questions that I had were sort of answered as I read the report, so I do think it's very good, so well done for that. So the only question I've got is around the Section 106, and it's quite refreshing to look at a Section 106 that isn't 50 quid to the mysterious Coastal Mitigation Service, something really meaty and meaningful. Is that, I'm presuming with this 111,298, it's a precise calculation, and that is the maximum we could... I presume that's not the entire cost for the junction?
No. The entire cost is 1.5 million, something like that. Yeah. It has been worked out on a square meterage of the development. They've come out at just over 111,000. That's based on obviously the square meterage of the garden centre, the retail concessions, and the outdoor plant sale area as well.
In my mind, I was thinking the total cost might be about 200 or 300, and we're giving a substantial, but now it's $1 million.
Just on the back of that, can I ask Rob Murphy to explain what is actually happening as regards highways works?
This is one of the issues when I say this wasn't a decision likely made, that we just looked at the application and said, yes, go for it. Okay. When we adopted the local plan in 2022, National Highways looked at all the allocations around Lionheart, and indeed they went as far in looking at potential allocations for residential uses in places like Shilbottle, and said, you cannot grant any permissions unless that junction's improved and a new roundabout put in. The problem that faces you then, when we are trying to stimulate economic development and growth in the county, is that old adage that the first person then to make an application would cop for the lot of the costs, all of them, okay? And that would render any of those developments not viable. So we took the unusual decision here, and this was a bit of a test bed. So what we did, we took a report to the Capital Strategy Board and said, we will front fund this, and then we will work out how we apportion that cost back. So the roundabout is under construction as we speak, including cycle lanes and things like that. And we've basically worked out how much we will need to charge per component to recover that, and we are well on the way to full recovery of those costs. Otherwise, the entire Lionheart Business Park, even though it was allocated, would have been sterilised. And it's a way of facilitating growth by a targeted intervention that we will then recover the costs for. Okay. So that's why it's a very precise figure, and it's a precise figure to pay for something that we're actually, it is being constructed as we speak. But in the absence of that, just to be clear, National Highways would issue a holding direction on this.
And they did initially.
Yeah, they did until they saw that we were actually commencing this project. Yeah.
Did you have another question? That's question from Martin Swinback.
Thank you, Chair. I've got a few questions, but the main one really is with regard to this. Obviously, there's the employment, not employment question, and I'm comfortable with that because although the neighbourhood plan is being refreshed, there are sites coming out that will put extra employment land into that vicinity. Obviously, that has to still go through referendum, etc., but that's the direction of travel. The real question for me on this one, the major question, is the effect on the town centre. So I just wondered, John, whether you would talk us through the sequential test and the impact test, and how we, as a planning authority, have checked that that is as it's written.
Obviously, the application required a sequential test and an impact test to be carried out. They were submitted with the application. rather than simply relying on the information that the applicant has submitted. We've had those independently assessed, and the conclusions that came back from that were that the reports submitted by Lichfields were largely about right. To be honest, I think there were one or two tweaks where some slightly out-of-date data had been used, but other than that, they were comfortable that that the reports were accurate. There's no denying that there will be an impact upon the town centre arising from this. The conclusion was that it wouldn't be significant. The difference, I think, is really a qualitative one between the offer that you have in the town centre, which is very much small retail units, a lot of it small independents, a lot of it directed at the tourism trade within the town, and so on, cafes and so on and so forth, compared to what you get down around the Willoughburn area and increasingly now over onto the other side of the road, which is your big national retailers, so your M&S Food Hall, your Home Bargains, is it Home Bargains, B&M, and that is what this proposal will be feeding into and potentially competing with, I suspect, rather than the small independent shops in the town centre. The argument's been made by the applicant that this will be a destination in itself, but will also feed into existing destinations elsewhere within the town. So people, will come potentially to this garden centre. They'll then go on to the likes of Barter Books, the castle, wherever it may be. So it's almost to be seen as a staging post, and therefore complementary to the offer that exists within the town centre.
Yeah, can I say a question? Sorry for... Yeah, that part of the assertion is much more difficult to evidence, but the applicants made the argument that that's what's been experienced on other branches of this type, this format of garden centre, where it is a destination, so people travel greater distances than purely like local users. So I think it's an argument which is worth considering, but at this stage it's hard to evidence the actual scale we're talking about. The only thing is, and if you allow me, John, if you want to encourage that to happen, maybe there's space for initial condition, and we'll need to ask the applicant for a nod here, for a board, a display board, which sets out the attractions in Alnwick and does a map of the pedestrian, how you can walk to it and things like that. Yeah, I'm going to nod for that. So, so if members consider that would help land the benefits and support the town centre, then maybe that could be attached as a condition.
Okay, thank you. It's just that I think it's probably within Alnwick, obviously there's the benefits and there's the disbenefits, and we need to weigh it up. But that really is the effect on the town centre, I think, is the crucial one as far as, as people locally consider this.
Yeah, and sometimes we have retail impact assessments and sequential tests put to us and we accept them. Here, we recognised very early on that was the key issue about this scheme. So that's why we went that stage of using external validation to check the assertions made on both sequential and impact assessment. So we are comfortable with the findings in here.
Okay, thank you. I just have some sort of more specific questions about the design. Where the bus stop location is in the entrance to the car parking area, I don't know whether you can put it up on the screen or whatever, but are we confident that the bus can actually get round there? Because it looks quite tight.
With what is currently being proposed, or it can at least be conditioned, to be acceptable. Clearly, any of the off-site works on Hawfinch will be subject to further technical approval through Highways anyway. Within the site, yeah, they're comfortable that it works.
Yeah, I guess it's been assessed for the kind of track analysis, whatever you call it. It's slightly disappointing that the bus stop is on the edge of the car park rather than closer to the actual store itself, because obviously people coming on a bus might be less able to walk so far. Lighting. The whole of the industrial estate, well, parts of the industrial estate in particular, unfortunately have some very, very bright lighting. And it is renowned across the town that that is the brightest part of the town. And, you know, we're in quite a dark skies area, but people from Embleton can see the lights of Alnwick. It's kind of our depot and Highways England depot, etc. But for this site, obviously can't do anything about that here, but for this site, can you assure me that this lighting will be as dim as it possibly can be for the operational thing of the site? Is it dark skies compliant on this application?
I was going to, it won't be dark skies compliant, but yeah, our environmental protection team have assessed the application and they're comfortable with the proposals as they stand, subject to conditions. I think we'll just actually put it. That's how. All right. No, they haven't. Oh yeah, external light. Sorry, there is. So condition 12 relates to external lighting. That's actually an ecology condition, but it's around the existing trees being suitable for bats, and so any external lighting basically have to be low level, below 2 meters in height, and low lux with using warm LEDs. So that is captured in that. There isn't a public protection condition on lighting, because they were presumably happy with the proposals as they were presented. Yeah, so 7.78. The Council's Environmental Protection Team has responded to consultation, raising no objections, provided it's constructed in accordance with the submitted plans. The submitted lighting reports, contamination assessments have confirmed no further works to assess the suitability of the proposed design are required.
Okay, thank you. Allied to that then is the screening of the site. Now the site, as everyone will realise, is right on the side of the A1, on the approach to the town coming from the south. Are we confident? I see we have mixed trees planting on the perimeters of the site. Are we confident that that is dense enough to effectively screen the site in time? Obviously it won't do to start with, but in time, is that the intention, that the site will be pretty well screened from the A1?
Again, so the proposal's been assessed by the county ecologist, and they're comfortable with what's being proposed. Obviously, there is a requirement for statutory BNG as well. So there is a lot of additional planting going in on site. Part of that will be along the A1 frontage there to screen the development from that road, and then screening at the back as well to aid screening from Greensfield Moor and the new houses that have been built there.
Okay, and 2 more points. I haven't seen anywhere on the plans that there's a children's play area in this site. Is that the case or not? It just seems that it's an attractor for families, but it doesn't seem to have any play facilities. I don't know, it's probably something that the applicant and the builder could pick up, but I don't see anything on the plans.
No, I don't believe there is. Off the top of my head.
We have, yeah, and just to be clear, this form of development wouldn't be covered by the local plan policies which set out the requirement for play space either. Okay.
Okay, and finally, which is a little bit more substantial, at 7.17, there's a policy from the Alnwick and Denwick Neighbourhood Plan which talks about, as Rob mentioned, about signage so people can find their way from this site to the town centre. Yeah. But it also talks about transport improvements between the out-of-centre site and the town centre. Now, I think, as far as we can see, we've got the kind of cycling, walking routes is probably as good as we can get. They're slightly circuitous, but we've got crossing back. My question is, there's some discussion around buses, and buses aren't going to come into the site at the moment, although we've got a bus stop. I imagine that's because the bus company hasn't yet been convinced that this is going to be a place where they're going to get a lot of trade. And there is a bus stop on the main road. But what I'm wondering is, would it be possible to have a commuted sum to actually, for a period of time, to actually encourage the bus to do that?
Yeah, could I answer that one? Yeah, can. Yeah, I can absolutely understand the sentiment. And we do that approach sometimes when we get permission for supermarkets. However, I think looking at the test of reasonableness there, that while we've put in place cycling and walking routes, I don't think that this type of use is one that would we were to justify the use of commuter sum for bus transport, given the totality of the range of goods there. It isn't like a supermarket where you can say people will need to use it who haven't got a car. This is a discretionary spend location. I would say, because the question you have to ask yourself, Councillor Swinback, is if we weren't going to, and then members decided that because of that we would decide to refuse the application, would we be able to substantiate that at appeal? And while it's often not as clear-cut as that, I think being as that we have no clear policy base for this, it will be a difficult task. And for it to be a meaningful contribution for bus service, it would have to be a fairly substantial contribution. And again, whereas, to use your example of a sign, is an item which is of modest cost, I would anticipate that the applicant, and I would say with some degree of justification, would push back on a bus service contribution here. Okay. So the answer is, but no, I don't think so.
Okay, thank you. Yeah. I'll take your advice on that. But it was worth asking the question.
I think it was.
Obviously, the link between this site and the town centre is quite crucial. And there will hopefully be people living in the town centre who will be working on this site as well.
Okay, thank you. Question from Councillor Malcolm Robinson.
Thank you, Chair. I only had 2 questions. I've got a few more now, actually, listen to this. But in the interest of getting the right proposal, impact on town centre, I think it almost certainly be an impact. I don't care what an impact assessment says. You must be mad if you don't think there will be. However, it's up to those traders to get together and exploit this. The car park for this thing's huge, isn't it? Did I read 600 cars?
That's right, yeah.
Now, somebody's done the market research to invest this sort of money. So they're expecting a substantial amount of visitors to come in. And if the town centre businesses want to exploit that, I'll certainly back any proposal to include a sign pointing the way to the town centre. Absolutely essential. They get what they can out of it. I would also back a proposal for apprenticeship training.
We've got to be careful, Councillor Robinson, because we're making statements and having a debate rather than asking questions.
What I want to do is get the proposal right, Chair.
Yeah, well, that's the proposal's there, and it's been suggested that...
Well, there isn't a proposal until you...
But, you know, to debate, we need to have a proposal on the thing. So,
yes, but if
just questions at this point, okay? Just questions.
If what I said doesn't include something which comes out, you've got to turn the first proposal down to do it again, haven't you? That's all the only point I'm making.
Yes, well, the only point I'm making is we've got a question and answer session now, and really I would like questions.
Okay.
Yeah, I want all your points a little bit later in the debate. I do enjoy a good debate. But at this point, just questions. Thank you.
Employment land. Correct me where I'm wrong, but this is designated green belt. Is that right? It's
No,
also
it's open countryside. Well, in fact, no, it's not open countryside. Sorry, it's within the settlement boundary.
It's employment land.
Oh,
Right.
largely anyway.
well, in that case, a job's a job, like Councillor Wallace said. What on earth are we doing? Unless you're going to specify the type of job, then a job's a job. Simple as that. We've had this before.
Chair, can I just for clarity, can I say that the report does not say there will be no impact on Alnwick Town Centre.
Yeah.
It says there will be, but it'll be acceptable, and there is potential, because of the difference in character of the retail users, that there's potential for some degree of complementarity, but we cannot qualify that. So it said there will be an impact, but we said it's acceptable. Okay.
Any more questions, Councillor Roberts? Oh, I haven't frightened you off. I did.
Do you think that's possible?
No, I don't. Any more questions, ladies and gentlemen? No more questions? Would someone like to make a proposal? Barry Flux?
I'll propose a recommendation with the added condition of a information board directing people to Alnwick Town Centre.
Well put.
Thank you. Is that seconded? Councillor Stewart? Anybody like to speak to the proposal? Councillor Malcolm Robinson.
Can I just ask Councillor Brooks to consider what was said at the start of the meeting, where apprenticeship training could be conditioned, where we might like to put something in where we'd see some training. You don't want the young ones getting trained, Barry?
No, I do want young uns getting trained, so please don't put words in my mouth. But this is a planning application. We can't add this, that and the other. And I think doing is a reasonable thing in terms of the sign. So, you know, I could add that on. You know, we had this chat about the bus service. Well, I was going to bring in a debate. Ponteland demanded a bus service and we've had ghost buses going around, haven't we, basically. And with greatest respect, you know, I really want to get a bus and get a small good from there, fine. But in reality, people are going to be getting, you know, giant pots for their garden and big, you know, bits of fertiliser, you know, all that stuff. So you're going to need your car for it, aren't you? Let's be honest. So, no, I'm not going to add those on because I think if we add too many things on there, we get away from what the application is and we probably can't get away with it anyway. That's what I'm going to say on that.
Councillor.
Can I finish my debate now? Thank you, Chair. I don't have a problem with it. The application looks as if it's been well researched, it's been well worked. You've got objections in here which have been worked through and overcome. So it's obviously had a lot of officer time, it's had a lot of work on it. And it's huge, it looks massive. So I haven't got a problem with it, but as was said, there could be something in for apprenticeships and training. And unless that's in the proposal, then I'll be voting against to bring in one exactly the same with some training attached to it. Thank you.
Can I ask our Director of Planning for his view on whether it's reasonable to ask for apprenticeship training?
I think it's, as a principle, it's a reasonable ask, okay? We would attach that type of requirement secured by a Section 106 to large inward investors. So, for example, you'll see at this committee when we come forward with some very large inward investors in the southeast of the county, that will come with a local skill support, a local employment support, and a local supply chain requirement support via 106. We do not normally do it to other forms of development apart from large inward investors, because what the actual reason why you put that requirement on is to fully realise the benefits of the scheme. Okay, so in other words, so it enables you to attach proper weight to the benefits from having an employment generating use. Because otherwise, you could argue that all the employment will travel in from outside the county, whatever. This type of use is almost certainly like to be one that draws its employment from the local area. And I would anticipate that any normal employer will seek to have, use of apprenticeship levy schemes, etc. on this anyway. It isn't one where there's a misalignment necessarily between the local workforce skill base and what this requires. Okay, so in the abstract, yes, that sort of condition, via 106, is appropriate. I would say on this one, while it potentially could be done, I would say it is not necessary to fully, to fully realise the economic benefits from it. I think they will naturally accrue. Okay.
Thank you. Councillor Ball.
Thank you, Chair. So, with regards to this application, I can't think of a better place to actually put this development. A garden centre within a town centre wouldn't actually work because you need the big outside space, the car parking, etc. Because, as Councillor Flux says, when you go to a garden centre, you're normally going for specific things, whether it be paving slabs or gravel and things like that. So I wouldn't be taking public transport unless I was arranging delivery. And I just think this kind of business within that kind of setup wouldn't be viable because of the extra costs that go with being within a town centre development. I think this is going to bring people to the town as well. People go during the week for visits to garden centres and have a mooch around, and will extend the visit in Alnwick as well because it's a beautiful place to visit as well. So I think this will actually add, I think it's brilliant that bringing a mixed range of jobs from retail. Kirkley Hall isn't that far away, and you've got agricultural and all that kind of stuff. That I just think this is a brilliant opportunity. I think it's going to bring more to the area, and I think this is a perfect site for it, and I think it's been well thought out. I think the work that's been done behind the scenes is brilliant on it as well, and thank you for everybody that's involved, because I do think this is great, and I think it's going to bring much needed employment and opportunity right the way from your first entry opportunity jobs right the way up to management and everything in between. So it's a great development in my opinion.
Thank you. Any more contributions? Councillor Dodd.
Yeah, I welcome this. I take Councillor Robinson's point about training. However, there will be plenty of people wanting those jobs who worked at Peter Barrett's, Gosforth, that closed, at Highley Gate, that closed. So I think, there will be a raft of people out there who have got the experience. But, welcome it. It's on the A1. Shame it won't be dual.
Oh. Had to get that in. Martin.
I suppose just to address the last point, the developer knows that the A1's not going to be dual and they're still coming forward with the schemes. That's an interesting point. However, I am supportive of the application. Obviously, in Alnwick, there will be some concern with regard to the effects on the town centre. There's change, where there is change, there is always some uncertainty. This will gather a lot of passing trade on the A1. It will provide a lot of employment, and on balance, it is definitely going to be good for the town. The other thing I would like to say is just thank you very much to Rob and his team for the work they've done around getting the roundabout, the junction sorted out on the entrance to this industrial estate, because without this, kind of none of it would have fitted together. And that is really forward-thinking and probably something that needs to be thought about in other parts of the county too. So thank you for that, but I'll be supporting the application.
Alex.
Thanks, Chair. I'll be supporting this. My wife loves to do two things. One, she loves to go to a garden centre, and she loves to go to Alnwick shopping. And I'll tell you something, every time I go to Alnwick, I have one hell of a job getting parked. Councillor Castle frequently asks the assistance of this authority to do something about additional parking. So what I'm trying to say is, I think those retailers do okay. They have a thriving market. I think the people who go to that market when it comes to buy their plants, etc., will continue to do so because the cafeterias there are very nice and they'll keep using those cafeterias. There's a pleasure in shopping in Alnwick, and this authority spends £2 million on cobbles. It's nearly as much as we're spending on potholes, Chair. And that's just in Alnwick. But no, joking aside, I think if you've had an estate up for sale for to attract employment for something like 10 years and it hasn't happened, and a major retailer, United Kingdom recognised, comes and offers employment, and it won't be for youngsters travelling up the A1 or the A19 from Teesside or down from Edinburgh. It'll be local employment. And rural employment is absolutely essential in this day and age. And I welcome that opportunity. And I agree with Councillor Ball. It'll be an entry level for many of them. JDR, thank you very much, Rob. JDR Cables, what a Section 106 training scheme, phenomenal for the people within my community. This is not the same. This is not the same at all. And the big difference is this garden centre will have a number of retail outlets within it. That's the competition that you're feared of in the town centre. So as a result, you cannot say to that lead company, we want a training, because that might not be what their renters, for want of a better word, want to use either. But I'm quietly confident with the number of sites that they have in the UK, they'll get the right employments and they'll encourage the youth to come into employment, maybe for many for the first time. Thank you for the report as well. I thought it answered everything except the 10-year question. Thank you.
Thank you. Not quite. I just want to make one contribution from the chair, because I too am particularly excited about this application. I'm delighted to welcome this national retailer to Alnwick. I think it's another reason for visiting our historic town. 120 jobs, construction jobs, a lot of new visitors to the town. It's marvellous. But I share Martin's concern about the damage or the effect it might have on our historic core. And we really need that display board depicting what gems are in Alnwick Town. But unlike Alex, you know, I'm not wild about the shopping offer in Alnwick Town. I think Alnwick Town could do better. It's got this garden centre coming on. It's got a fabulous hotel, nearly finished. You know, what Alnwick has to do is, you know, improve its act. It's got to really make sure that when these people visit the Alnwick Gardens, the hotel, the garden centre, there's some reason to get into the town and spend your money. So, you know, like Martin, I hope these pathways, cycleways, and the car park, I hope people are going to come and visit the town and spend the money as well. Barry, over to you, sir.
I'm very sympathetic to what Malcolm said about apprenticeships and such like. But at the end of the day, sometimes we've got to trust our officers, because I bet that these kind of conversations were going on behind the scenes, and had it been appropriate, I feel it probably would have been on this application. And I think we as members just need to remember that we are lay people. We've got to take on trust some of the things that have gone on in the background. Also, I really, really do welcome this. When we heard in the report that they are a company, I've not heard of them, but they're a company in the south of England and the Midlands, and they're talking about having another one at Scotch Corner, and then not another one until Alnwick. well, I'm going to say, well, what a coup that is for Northumberland that we've got that, because they could quite easily have looked at sites in Tyne and Wear. They could quite easily have looked at sites in Cumbria or even further in Scotland or what have we. So I think what an absolute coup for Northumberland to be attracting this kind of investment and this kind of facility, which I think will help Alnwick immeasurably. I bet there'll be coach tours going to the castle, which will do their second stop at the garden centre around the corner, and they'll probably pop into the town for some lunch or what have you. So from what I can see, I can only see benefits to this. I don't want to put too much of a burden on them, because I think in the general sense of planning, what's stopping planning growth? It's the burden on telling people what they need to do. You know, I'm sure this company probably do have apprenticeship schemes. I don't know, probably do. You know, if we put burdens on telling businesses what to do too much, then they'll just go elsewhere, or they'll you know, go for the easy tick on the box or what have you. So just for that reason alone, and the fact that I think this will be immeasurable benefits for Alnwick and the wider district around there, or former district around there, I wholeheartedly support this application, and I think that the information board was a small ask in that.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen of the committee, the proposal has been moved and seconded. All those in favour of this application? Unanimous. Well done, committee. Thank you. No urgent business today, so I would like to thank you all for coming along, and thank you for your very worthwhile contributions, and as always, good debate. Thank you.